The chances of Kamala Harris being asked to come in and testify increased significantly with this newest memo.
You're talking about almost 4,500 pardons that were issued. And to some of them, it was murderers, it was violent criminals, it was people with violent drug history.
Hey, did you hear about the huge controversy around President Biden and the alleged misuse of the Autopen for issuing pardons? Apparently, he's signed over 4,500 pardons. And shockingly, some of them went to violent criminals, sparking a massive public outcry.
Important is that you see pushback from within the administration, emails that show a confusion about the use of the Autopen and wondering and questions about why it's being used. Let's play this from Lydia Moynihan, who talked about this, one of the contributors here at Fox.
You're talking about almost 4,500 pardons that were issued. And to some of them, it was murderers, it was violent criminals, it was people with violent drug histories. They weren't vetting any of those folks who were being pardoned. Again, that raises concerns about who these people are, whether they deserve to be free. And so I think we need answers about who was released, why they were released, and who ultimately is responsible for it.
Mark, your reaction?
Well, look, the Department of Justice works for the President of the United States. They're not an independent branch of government. So at the end of the day, whether or not the Department of Justice is directly involved or not with the pardon process really doesn't matter. If the president wants to give someone a pardon or grant clemency, he has the authority to do so, which goes back to, did Joe Biden really sign off on this or not? Now, usually the Department of Justice is involved. They put together the paperwork, they put together the documents for the president to sign, but the fact that they didn't do it, arguably, doesn't change the legal nature of this. At the end of the day, did Joe Biden sign off on?
It's hard to even wrap your head around how this happened. And what's even more shocking are the whispers about the decision-making process, leaving people questioning who's really calling the shots behind the scenes.
Sams, who was the face of the White House response to the very damaging report that said that Joe Biden was a forgetful old man. He was the face of the White House response to our investigation, Byron Donalds and myself, as well as all the members of the House Oversight Committee, when we found that China had in fact wired money to LLCs owned by Biden family members. He was the one that would always respond and say he talked to Joe Biden. Joe Biden was vibrant. Joe Biden did not do this. The family's innocent. And then come to find out when we put him under oath, he admits, well, I only saw Joe Biden 2 times over a 2-year period. That's unprecedented. We're trying to get to the bottom of who was operating the Autopen, and we've brought in a dozen people so far, and they're all pointing the fingers at other people. The ones that I think may have a little more knowledge, they pled the fifth to avoid self-incrimination. So I think what you're going to see is unless Jean-Pierre and some of these others come in and tell us more, it's becoming very apparent that Joe Biden really wasn't the one in command at the end of his...
The situation is pretty mind-blowing when you consider the risks of improper pardons, and there's a lot more to unpack here, which is exactly what we're diving into today. President Biden's pardoning spree is under intense scrutiny, with shocking allegations that a machine that mimics a person's signature might have been misused to approve over 4,500 pardons, many of which went to individuals with serious criminal records. People are questioning what kind of vetting, if any, actually took place and who's really making these decisions behind the scenes. The implications are staggering, and the whispers about the decision-making process only add to the controversy. If you want to stay updated and support our work, subscribing genuinely helps us keep digging deeper. So, let's jump right into it and explore how this unprecedented use of the Autopen could have bypassed the usual.
Who served in the White House counsel's office, you understand the gravity of presidential action. Does the president's signature carry legal and constitutional weight under Article 2?
Yes.
Is the act of signing an executive order or signing a law or granting a pardon a delegable duty of the president?
So in that opinion in 2005 from OLC, they said essentially that an Autopen could be used by a subordinate, but the president's determination as to sign the document can never be delegated.
Can that authority be transferred to a staffer or machine without the president's explicit authorization?
Never.
If an executive order is issued and a staffer auto-pens it without the president's authorization, is that executive order legally binding?
No.
And if a pardon is issued from the President of the United States and a staffer autopens it without the President's authorization, is that pardon legally binding?
No.
Under the Biden White House, the ceremonial song, "Hail to the Chief," was effectively replaced with
Unfolding controversy surrounding President Biden's alleged misuse of the Autopen for issuing pardons has sent shockwaves through political circles and ordinary citizens alike, creating a situation that many are calling unprecedented and deeply troubling. Questions are swirling about who is truly in control at the helm of the administration, as concerns about process, oversight, and accountability continue to mount. Media outlets are abuzz with speculation and analysis, highlighting that legitimate procedures may have been bypassed in order to expedite the pardons, and a flood of internal White House emails and memos has surfaced, fueling suspicions that the standard vetting process was either ignored or poorly enforced. At the heart of the matter is the fact that over 4,500 pardons were issued, many of which went to individuals with serious criminal records, raising alarm over the implications for public safety and the integrity of the presidency. Reports suggest that internal guidance directed Biden to personally sign highly significant documents such as congressional bills, medals, and other matters of major consequence, while leaving other pardons to be processed through a machine designed to replicate signatures. Yet it remains unclear whether this process was properly adhered to, prompting serious questions about whether these pardons were fully authorized or merely rubber-stamped. Without true presidential oversight, legal experts and former administration insiders have weighed in, arguing that the oversight was at best inconsistent and at worst entirely absent, with some suggesting that decisions regarding who received pardons may have circumvented the president altogether or were not closely reviewed by him, threatening to undermine the administration's credibility and raising questions about moral accountability and governance. The political ramifications are growing as the House Oversight Committee ramps up its investigation, with reports indicating that high-level officials, including potentially Vice President Harris, could be called to testify. This has sparked speculation about whether she may have played a more substantial role in the pardon process than previously acknowledged, and the stakes are high, as officials face the possibility of being subpoenaed to explain the decision-making chain, particularly whether pardons were signed off without true presidential knowledge or approval. Representative Comer has been particularly vocal, hinting at the need for accountability from key aides and other decision-makers, emphasizing that transparency and clarity are paramount in addressing what could become a politically explosive issue. Adding to the intrigue, Axios reported on the Biden White House's apparent organizational struggles, suggesting that many pardons may have been processed via email by aides who lacked formal authority to make such decisions, highlighting a potentially systemic weakness in administrative controls. In a deposition that has caught the attention of both legal analysts and the public, White House spokesperson Ian Sams reportedly admitted to seeing Biden only twice over 2 years during these executive maneuvers, a revelation that underscores concerns about the level of direct oversight and personal involvement in critical decisions. This scenario has raised alarms not just politically but legally, as constitutional experts insist that presidential pardons must be explicitly authorized by the president himself and cannot be delegated or effectively rubber-stamped by machines or subordinates. Senator Ted Cruz has publicly emphasized this point during a Senate hearing, warning that failure to adhere to these legal requirements could lead to serious constitutional challenges and potentially set a dangerous precedent for future administrations. The broader implications of this controversy extend far beyond the immediate political fallout, touching on fundamental questions about the balance of power, executive authority, and the responsibility of elected officials to maintain public trust. If the claims hold up under scrutiny, they could reveal a deeply troubling pattern of delegation or negligence that undermines the principle that the president must personally authorize actions of such significance. Public reactions reflect the severity of these concerns, with citizens and commentators alike questioning whether this represents a simple administrative oversight, systemic disorganization, or something more deliberate, highlighting a growing sense of unease over how decisions of national importance are made. The issue has ignited widespread debate about governance, transparency, and accountability at the highest levels of government, with calls for decisive action and clear communication from the administration to restore confidence. As investigations continue and more internal documents and testimonies surface, the story remains highly dynamic, with each revelation adding complexity and urgency to an already explosive situation. Ultimately, The Biden Autopen pardon controversy raises profound questions about the mechanisms of executive power, the safeguards designed to prevent misuse, and the responsibilities of those entrusted with the authority to act on behalf of the American people, leaving the nation to grapple with both the political and legal ramifications of what could become one of the most significant controversies